and living my day well every day. I'm accompanied by the Serenity Prayer, which I will say to you in Polish. Boże, użycz mi pogody ducha, abym godził się z tym, czego nie mogę zmienić, odwagi, abym zmieniał to, co mogę zmienić, i mądrości, abym odróżniał jedno od drugiego.
Welcome. It's the AA Grapevine Half Hour Variety Hour, featuring the collected voices of Alcoholics Anonymous. I am Olis, an alcoholic in Oakland, California.
Hey, Olis. Hey, everybody. I'm Sam, an alcoholic in Palm Springs, California.
Hey, Sam. You know, the International Convention is around the corner. And I'm just overwhelmed, like the closer we get, overwhelmed with gratitude that we're members of an international society. Like, who would have thought that? At the end of a personal story entitled Tightrope in the Big Book on page 368, my online home group recently read this, which made me think about being part of an international fellowship. Recently, I retired and have begun to travel throughout the world. I've attended and felt welcome in AA meetings wherever I have gone, inside and outside the United States. I now have an extended family that is international in scope, all the members of which are joined by bonds of shared pain and joy.
Ooh, now I know that is true for you, our nomadic host. It's hard to keep you in one place for a minute.
Yeah, I'd love to see the whole world. You know, just as a tourist anywhere in the world, it's a one kind of experience. But when you travel and you already have a ready-made family somewhere,
yes,
it's a different thing. AA will come get you. They'll take you to meetings. It's just beautiful.
I have gotten to experience that too. Now, at this point, it was a long time ago, but for 4 years, starting in 2007, I traveled internationally for work, and I got to 26 different countries over the course of those 4 years, many of them several times, and I got to an AA meeting in every single one of them.
Incredible.
And it was an absolute joy to go to these places. And you know, there's a secret about AA. The same characters are in every room. They got different names and different faces, but it's the same people.
Yeah, for anybody that is interested in traveling, that is a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, in addition to the gift of sobriety, there's another gift, which is you already are welcomed in Alcoholics Anonymous anywhere in the world.
It's an incredible experience to be part of this fellowship.
Yeah.
Olis, it's a new month.
What?
And you know what that means.
What does it mean?
The new grapevine is here. The new grapevine is here.
Good Lord, Sam. You've got elephants in Palm Springs.
Hey, we're recording a podcast here, you pesky elephants. I know what to do. I'll release the chaos monkeys. Pull the lever, Crunk!
Oh, now that the wild animals have quieted down, let's talk about how, since Dr. Bob got sober in June 1935, we've celebrated the founding of our incredible program. This year, we celebrate 90 years of Alcoholics Anonymous.
90! Wow.
Alcoholics Anonymous has helped millions of people put down the bottle and, maybe more importantly, pick up a good life. In this special issue, we feature memories of past conventions, a welcome letter from the General Service Board Chair, and updates on the critical international work that AA has done and is doing.
That is a lot.
But wait, there's even more. We have powerful stories by members from all over the world. Happy birthday, AA. Here's to many more.
Indeed. Olis, at the beginning of the issue, there's a photo spread of 9 international conventions, a group photo of each one starting in 2015 in Atlanta, Georgia, and ending in 1950 in Cleveland, Ohio. 1950 was our first convention with 3,000 attending. Every year grew larger, and in 2015, there were 57,000 alcoholics invading Atlanta, Georgia.
Amazing. Amazing. And because of COVID, we have not had a convention since Atlanta. I'm so excited about what's coming.
Oh, me too.
Also, in the issue, a member in Ontario makes a sober adventure come true, taking a motorcycle trip through South America, hitting AA meetings all along the way. And it's all captured in the story, Dream of a Lifetime.
In the story, Lighting Candles in Poland, a longtime member shares about the growth of AA in his country over the past 40 years.
In Everyone Everywhere, All at Once, a woman in Switzerland and her sponsee in Germany get to share the love in an AA meeting in New York City. Thank you, Online AA.
Thank you, AA Online, indeed. Because today we have a panel of international guests joining us thanks to the World Wide Web interconnectivity. We have, well, first, we were going to have Michal from Podhale, Poland, but there was an obstacle with the interview, so he sent us a brief recording. His story, Lighting Candles in Poland, is on page 19 of the July 2025 issue.
And our panelists are joining us from 3 continents. We have Monica from Ghana in Africa. We have Julia from Germany in Europe, and Alex from Hong Kong in Asia. And Sam and I are in North America in the United States. So we right now are covering 4 continents in this panel.
That's a lot of continents.
That is.
And we're going to hear from our panelists in a moment. But first, here's Michal.
My name is Michal and I'm an alcoholic. My sobriety date is January the 21st, 1986. I live in a small town in southern Poland. My problems with alcohol began when I was 15 years old. At the time, I recognized it as a miracle cure for my fears, sick emotions of lowering my stress level. At first, there was euphoria, then my increasingly frequent drinking began to bring with it growing troubles, learning problems, premature marriage, job loss, or suicide attempts. Slowly everything was falling apart. Studies interrupted by alcohol, separation from my wife for several years, and finally homelessness. And yet I was only 28 years old. I learned about the existence of the AA fellowship from a newspaper, from an article by Victor O., an alcoholic from Poland, who took part in the International Convention to celebrate the 50th anniversary of AA, which was held in 1985 in Montreal. It was thanks to the article that I decided to seek help for myself. The AA fellowship in Poland was just beginning to develop, but I was fortunate to find myself at the meetings of the first AA group in Podhale in Nowy Targ, which functions there to this day. Since March 1987, I have been continuously attending the meetings of the AA group Nowy Świat, New World, in Rabka-Zdrój, where I come from. In my nearly 40-year journey toward the happy destiny, I have gone through virtually all levels of service in AA, from serving in my home group to representing our fellowship at European and the World Service meetings. I'm now in my 6th year as editor-in-chief of our fellowship's bi-monthly magazine, Zdrój, coming out continuously since March 1985. My heart is filled with gratitude and love to the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous for how I radically changed my life. I got my family back, we create a common home, we support each other for years living in harmony and love. Love and service in NAA has given a life deep meaning and allows me to enjoy an uninterrupted, sober life, continuing to carry the message to those sisters and brothers who still suffer from alcoholism. God bless you, Michal, an alcoholic from Poland.
You can give a gift subscription of Grapevine or Lavinia.
Grapevine has a long waiting list of incarcerated members who want one. Get your group, district, area, or AA friends to join in.
It's easy. Go to aagrapevine.org and look for Carry the Message at the top of the site.
So let's start with introductions. Who are you people?
Hello, my name is Alex, and I'm joining you from Hong Kong. My sobriety date was May 28th, 2008. So today is actually my 17th birthday.
Woohoo! That's
and
awesome.
I'm honored to be here.
My name is Julia, and I'm an alcoholic and from Berlin, Germany. I got sober in Paris on the 23rd of September 1985, and my home group is the German Sunday Big Book Study Group in Berlin at 1:30. You're all welcome.
Hi, I'm Monica, a grateful recovering addict. My sobriety date is actually 27th February 2022, and I'm really grateful to be here.
Thank you all for joining us. We are so happy to sit down with you. We want to get to know each of you just a little bit because we've got to get you all together talking about this international experience. What are the similarities and differences of AA around the world? But first, let's get to know each of you individually for a moment. And Monica, would you please start? What is it that brought you to AA?
I was feeling very sick. I was tired, emotionally drained. I seriously wanted to kill myself. The only thing that stopped me at that moment was the fact that my son, who was barely 13 years old, was sleeping in the next room. So I was like, what would that do to this child? It would destroy him. Later, when I got to build this relationship with my higher power, that was when I realized that he was the one who was speaking to me that night. That was when I decided I needed this help. I cannot control what people were saying or anything. But one thing I know I could do at that moment was to ask for help and work on me. And that was how I found AA, and it was amazing when I found the fellowship because I needed somebody to tell me that you will be fine. You can get through it. You can be a responsible mother. You can be there to watch your child grow. And it's amazing. When I came back home, there was one thing I was thinking about. I have wronged this child. How am I going to get through to him? Then my sponsor said, the only amends you can make to this child is a living amends. Be a mother. He came to me, he approached me and said, Mom, my teacher in school said, it's only people who are crazy that drink alcohol. And I realized that was the right time for me to really explain to my child. And I made him understand that I was sick. And now he joins my meeting. He's 17 years now. This boy actually comes to wake me up. Madam, it's time for meeting. Are you not joining meeting today? It's amazing.
Monica, it sounds like you have truly made amends to your son. Thank you, Monica.
Julia, tell us a little bit about how you got here and what it's like.
My name is Julia, and I'm an alcoholic. And I'm so happy and honored and nervous also to be here. I grew up in a German family in Africa. They were diplomats, and my dad was born in 1930, my mother in 1940 in the war. And William James calls the alcoholics the children of wrath. And in my family, I grew up in a family of resentment, of spite, of anger, of fear, of denigrating the other, of a lot of intolerance and of struggle. And this is what my role models, obviously, that's how I thought life on life's terms was. I figured this is sort of hard and not so attractive. And then I discovered alcohol, and alcohol made it much more attractive. I love my first drunk was my first real drunk. I had drunk before because I had trouble sleeping. So my mom would give me the German Glühwein, which is the hot wine we drink for Christmas. But she would say, don't drink too much of it or you'll become an alcoholic. But it was already too late. Little did she know I was already planning my future. I had a cup of champagne because my parents were having some reception. I was the life of the party, at least I imagine. I was feeling wonderful. I could talk to people, even adult men. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And as long as I have this, I can do life on life. So I thought everybody drank. And I thought this is, if you're an adult, you drink. And this is how you deal with life. Having sex, meeting people, working, you're always drunk, and then life will be okay. However, there's a price to pay. I was very suicidal over these years. I tried to kill myself a few times because there was a lot of despair. I'm not the party person. I never managed to get to the party because I was too drunk, and I was happy drinking at home. I'm a beer drinker. Unless you have something else, of course, I'll take whatever. But when I was studying in Paris, I was this kid who would come to class with my beer on the table, and nobody would say anything. And if somebody said anything, I would say, I'm German. We drink. For us, beer is liquid bread and it's vitamin B. And I was convinced of that because I didn't eat all day. I took diet pills, that's amphetamines. And at 5, I drank. I started my first beer. And it was, they say that God is in the breath or God is in the pause. And I would drink glug, 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 my first beer. And then I would, I go like this and I can breathe. So for me, that was the little God. Jung says that the longing for the alcoholic for alcohol is on a low level, the desire to be one with God. So I was a spiritual seeker all my life, but I didn't know it. When I found AA, I was 20 years old. It was not a minute too late. It's not a day more to drink in my life. I was done. And I had written a letter to God. I'm not religious, but there was my first letter to God, completely drunk. And I said, God, either you show me what you want in this life or you take me away. I set an ultimatum to God, and God responded. The next day, somebody said, go to AA. I'd never thought about AA. I didn't think I was an alcoholic. And I went to AA because that's the only option I really had left. And I found my spiritual home in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I knew, because I heard the language of the heart, and I knew the minute I went to my first meeting that I was never going to leave AA. That's it. I found what I was looking for, and I was never going to go away again. That's it. And that's almost 40 years ago now. And I'm very active, super active. I had one sponsor that year in Paris. Thank God she was a big book sponsor. She took me through the steps. Big book it was 9 months sober. I did all my 9 steps because she said, then you can have a relationship. And then I had the second sponsor when I moved to Germany. She was an army wife, also English speaking. And she said, Julia, one person can change the world. And this is what we've been busy doing in Berlin, because I'm the longest sober, I'm the old timer, but one person can change the world. I promise you, there's a flourishing fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, German, in Berlin, thanks to what Betty gave to me 40 years ago, because I'm still passing on the same message. And I will talk about this later. Thank you.
Thank you, Julia.
And Alex, thank you so much for being here. I know it's the middle of the night there. Come on in from Hong Kong.
Sure, it's my pleasure. My name is Alex, alcoholic. So I came from a very simple family. I'm actually not the first one in my family to have this disease. I have a younger brother who's 2 years younger. He started drinking when he was in his teens. We had no idea what's going on. I tried to help him for 10 years. Nothing worked. Then one day he stopped drinking. We were sitting in front of the doctor. The doctor said, are you going to drink anymore? He said, no. I remember huge sigh of relief. Thank God the nightmare is over. The second thought was, I can go home and drink in peace now. I had no idea I had contracted the same disease. As long as I didn't drink like him, I'm not an alcoholic. I went on drinking for another 10, maybe 15 years after that. I was getting more depressed. I had anxiety, panic attacks, suicidal thoughts. But on the outside, everything was fine. I had a good job. I was working at big Fortune 500s. My home is in Hong Kong, and at the time I moved to Beijing for a job. And I was talking to a counselor, and one day my counselor said to me, he said, Alex, you're an alcoholic. And I said, no, it couldn't be. It can't be me. About 3 months later, I finally hit my bottom. I went to my first AA meeting, and that's where the miracle happened. Because by then, I had to control how much I buy, the liquors. That night, I went home and I didn't buy any alcohol. Same thing the next day and the day after. So what happened in recovery was, they say when you come to the program, you only have to change one thing, which was everything. Well, I did that, exactly that. I was 40 years old when I came to the program. I went from single to married. I was never fired from a job. I got fired the very next year from my job. And over the next 3 years, I went from an IT tech guy to a sales guy to try to run the startup to coming back to Hong Kong, running my parents' business. Everything changed upside down. And thanks to the program that I could face the world and most importantly, myself. And just like Julie and Monica mentioned, I experienced peace in my life for the first time. The hamster on the wheel in my head, I finally stopped. I was in China at the time, though. I was lucky because I had spent all in all 12 years in the States. My English is fine, so I went to an English speaking meeting. But I later on tried to go to the Chinese meetings, and it was very difficult. I'm happy to elaborate more on that later on. So I consider myself very, very lucky that I could experience the program of recovery through kind of firsthand experience, not translate the experience. That actually makes a huge impact in how the message is carried. So today, I have a wife, I have 2 kids, I have a job. Reality doesn't stop just because I stopped drinking. Right. And luckily, there's AA, and I found my version of higher power. And I know if I stay in the program, trust my higher power, everything's going to be fine.
It is so amazing to hear from 3 people on 3 different continents about Alcoholics Anonymous, because it's easy to think no matter where you are, AA is only where you are. Maybe we can start again with you, Monica. How you think AA is the same or different from America?
I think AA is the same everywhere because I live far from the capital of Ghana. I'm like 3 hours drive from the capital. And where I am, there's no meetings. I was the second person to go for treatment. I met my nephew in the treatment center. So when he was discharged, I invited him over for us to start a meeting. And that's how we started a meeting in my home. But along the line, he left. And about 2-3 weeks ago, we revived the meeting. But most of the meetings I do are online, and it's the same thing. We have similar stories. It's always the same. The benefits we get are the same. When people share their experience, strength, and hope, and I listen to them, I'm able to relate no matter where they are in the world. And that's one thing that is amazing. What working the steps has done for someone is similar to what I also got, especially the peace, the ability to love yourself. But anytime I go to the city in there, I visit treatment centers. I join them for meetings. When we have speaker meetings, it's the same things they share. It doesn't matter how many years or months the person has been in the program, but they seem to share about the peace they are enjoying because of the program.
Yeah.
So what I'll say is that the fellowship is the same everywhere.
Yeah.
Alex, what's your experience of AA? And I'm curious, how did you find it there?
At the time, I was seeing this counselor. It was through this counselor. She's an American lady, and she knows about AA. I was lucky in that way. But for other Chinese, actually the biggest supply of Chinese AA members in Beijing is from the Beijing 6th Hospital, which is the leading mental health institute. So in year 2000, a group of doctors visited the States. And through the visit, they learned about AA, and AA was subsequently formally introduced into the mental health system in China the following year.
And did you say that was 2020?
No, year 2000. AA in China has been only officially developing over the last 25 years. And I said I'm lucky because had I only speak Chinese back then, It was almost impossible to find it online. Now it's a very, very different picture. If you search online in China, like I want to stop drinking, there's all kinds of information that pop up, and it's much easier today.
That was my experience. I got to a couple of places in China and Hong Kong also, and that was in 2007 through 2010. Of course, all the meetings that I was going to were expats, English speaking meetings.
Sure.
And what I'm hearing is that you went to expat meetings as well.
Yes, I went to the expat meetings first, and then I went to one of the Chinese meetings, and I found that I couldn't stay in the Chinese meetings because the message recovery wasn't quite there. Because a lot of it was caused by translation. This is simply what you call loss in translation. So, like, I remember when I first came to the program, I can't really read the big book, but there's the stories at the back of the big book, right? So I will read those. I don't know if it is true in the translated German version. It was deliberately designed that way, that I think was at the GSO level, that the stories at the back of the book were not included.
Is that the case, Julia?
Yes.
Yeah. The intent was that the local could provide their own stories. However, it's going to take a while. So they had no stories. Imagine your recovery only had the first 164 page of big book, 12 and 12, daily reflection. I think that's it. It was very dry, and the steps were also like step 2 came to believe. What came to, it's a process. It didn't get translated as a process. It got translated to realize.
So instead of a process, it was an instant.
It was an instant, right? And then that got people confused, and they said a lot of these nuances in wordings over the long run, have a major impact on how we understand the message of recovery.
Alex, in your ability to speak Chinese and communicate well with other Chinese folks, do you help them understand the original context?
I try. So here's the interesting battle. In any country where you have the translated text, I imagine you face similar battle. Is I try to put my hand up and say, hey, listen, the message isn't quite what's read in the book. I'm referring to the Chinese text.
Yeah.
What I get back is, no. This is how the text is written. You're wrong. The text is right in the book. And so what I eventually I realized just one voice isn't enough. So what I started doing was I would invite a English-speaking guest come to a meeting to share his or her story, and I would translate his or her story. And that's why the stories are really, really, really important. Yes. If your native tongue is not English. And then they get to hear not just from Alex, but from Julia, from Monica, from Peter, Paul, and Mary. Then they go, okay, that was the original message.
Julia.
So I can relate to a lot what Alex said. So God, there's so much to say. But until 10 years or 15 years ago, I did big book studies in English. And then my sponsees, who are Germans, went to me and said, Julia, what are you doing? We have thousands of big book studies in English online. There's none in German. So why don't you get to work? And I was like, oh, come on, not me. And so I started. Since 2015, maybe, I do every month a big book study in German. Thanks to COVID, we're all online every month. And we have about 100 people who attend from all over. So I'm the first one, but there's competition coming. I can see them. They're calling me up and say, can I do it? It's like, so I'm happy. I'm super happy.
It's not competition, it's help.
Oh, yeah. But, this is so important because people read the book and then they understand what's going on. I've seen people who've been 40 years sober in German AA finally have a spiritual awakening after they've read the book. So the problem is this. AA was passed on in Germany, first by the military, but they didn't have the same language. The Germans didn't understand what they were saying. They organized a meeting in Munich. And then most of AA was passed on by doctors who had heard about AA in the States, said, wow, this is amazing. It works so well. AA is exploding in the United States. Let's give it to our alcoholic patients. So they gave them the book, but no sponsorship. So people took the book, but never read it. So when I got sober in Paris, I was so lucky. I was 20 and I had a lot of expectation. It says in the book that we want to create the fellowship that we crave. So I tried to create the fellowship that I saw, which is a welcoming. They treat me like an answer to their prayer, like I'm gold. as a newcomer. And there's a welcome and there's a program, this window of opportunity before the pain of staying sober becomes bigger than the joy of getting sober. And so there was none of that. So when I traveled in my first year of sobriety, I traveled to Germany, and I was going to go to AA everywhere because I was just lit up with AA. And I went to a first German meeting in Essen in 1985 with my new boyfriend after my ninth step. And we entered, and there were like 7 Germans. They didn't even look at us. They didn't even look at us. They pretended we weren't there, that we didn't exist. They didn't greet us. But it was called AA. We left and was like, I would have never gotten sober here. Never. I tried in my first years of sobriety to go to German meetings, but I was always alone. I was the only one. So I was the young girl amongst a lot of old white men who were either in love with me, who wanted to sleep with me, and who thought she's crazy because she's so full of joy and light and whatever, but she's crazy. She's insane. So I was like, I got tired. Sometimes I would get a sponsee because the newcomers always listen and they always want what you have, but not the old timers. And then when we're doing these big book studies like 10, 12 years ago, we said, why don't we try this in Berlin to have the same tight knit fellowship where nobody falls through crack? There was one woman, she got sober, a German woman, and she started meetings almost every week. And those meetings are still going on. We have meetings that have 100 people. From a sleeper town of AA, we've gone through. Every German loves coming to Berlin to go to meetings because it's full of young people. We are just very tight-knit. We treat the newcomer like an answer to our prayers. We give them phone numbers. They get living sober. They get a sponsor. And we talk about the steps. There's a time limit. Germans meeting used to be 2 hours. I don't know if you had the same, Alex. It used to be 2 hours with no time limitation. So you suffered with a cigarette break. So it's like, man, I'm going to die before I get sober. And the translation issue is a problem, but we're working on it. We have the same problem here. The first translation is the word of God. And so it's hard to change a translation because there's the old timers who you can. But I think the development in A is cyclic, and there are waves where you can push forward and then it goes back, and it's like everything in the world. And now with getting online, we're really reaching so many German-speaking people. It's amazing.
Monica, what type of literature are you using?
The only literature I got from the treatment center was the big book, Alcoholics Anonymous, and that was it.
And that's in English?
Yes, it's been translated into Twi. Twi happens to be the second language spoken apart from English. Most people speak Twi. In Ghana, we have the Hopeful Way Foundation. Actually, I joined his meeting, and this meeting is full of old men and old women. I was the youngest when I joined. They gave me the daily reflection, the 12 and 12, living sober, came to believe. Oh, they gave me books. And I go visiting the treatment center. I give it away. That's what I keep doing.
Wonderful.
Investing in your recovery means you need to get the books. Currently, I have 11 sponsees. We do step work on Zoom.
Yeah.
They are also ready to, come out and make people understand that recovery is possible for women. And we are stigmatized so much, and that's what keeps women relapsing and relapsing. So I keep telling them, if you buy the books, you read stories in the book and see that you will not be the first to be stigmatized, nor the last. And then the fellowship can grow. Then you know that you don't need to go and drink just because somebody looked down on you or maltreated you at work or stigmatized you. No.
Monica, would you give us a final thought about AA in Ghana?
When I was a year into recovery in Ghana, I was approached to do a documentary on the disease among health workers. So I actually did, but because of the traditions, I couldn't talk about AA. So I spoke about the disease, and what happened was that I started getting calls. People found me, and they were nurses, doctors, people in the health sector started calling me. So where can I get this help? Can you help me? And gradually, people have started meetings. So the fellowship is growing gradually. Now we have online meetings in Ghana also. I join a lot of meetings in East Africa, Kenya specifically. And it's amazing. A lot of Ghanaians are now joining those meetings back to back. Once I share, they join. So the fellowship is growing gradually, and I'm really happy about it.
Julia,
Yeah, that's so great. During COVID, we started a German WhatsApp speaker meeting. Now this meeting is on Signal. It has 2 WhatsApp chats. In each chat, there are 1,500 people. And it's an incredible tool to reach Germans and German speakers also in Austria and in Switzerland. And it's changing the face of AA in Germany. So it becomes a place where people really rally and drink of the fountain of the solution and the program. This is one thing that's really amazing.
Indeed, it is. We have all of these digital platforms and more that are showing up for us to be able to connect in ways we never dreamed of. It is absolutely amazing how AA around the world is becoming this tight-knit family.
And as we celebrate a 90th anniversary for Alcoholics Anonymous in the U.S., it's beautiful to hear each of you talk about the evolution of Alcoholics Anonymous in your country. AA is coming of age in Ghana on its own natural path. AA is coming to age in China and in Germany along its own path. And talking to you is almost like going back in history, because the same challenges I hear you talking about are really in the literature about what we fought through in order to evolve. And so it's so beautiful to know that AA is alive and well everywhere.
Thank you all for taking your time, morning, noon, and night, to spend some time with us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
To you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks to everyone who subscribes to the Grapevine magazine in print or in the AA Grapevine app. Your support makes this podcast possible.
I'm at the very wit's end. Cuckoo.
I once heard of a songwriter who tried to compose a drinking song, but she could never get past the first 3 bars. It's really not that funny. Thanks for joining us. The AA Grapevine Half-Hour Variety Hour is posted every Monday and is produced by AA Grapevine, Inc. We don't speak for AA as a whole. We share the experience, strength, and hope of members to help others recover from alcoholism. All things Grapevine are available at aagrapevine.org, including our app and how to get in touch with us. Find us on Instagram and YouTube. If you want to know more about AA, visit aa.org or search online for Alcoholics Anonymous and your city.